So we're gonna go over a complete breakdown of how to perform the back squat today. Back squat's considered kind of the king of all squat variations when you compare it to a front squat or a goblet squat or any other variation. So I really wanna make sure we take the time to break it down the right way and show you step by step how to set up and how to perform it, all right? I got Dan here with me, he's gonna do our demos for us. The first thing I wanna do is talk about setup, okay? Setup for the squat is gonna start from your grip because it's the first thing that's gonna go on the bar. So if I have Dan turn around now, what he's gonna do with the bar is he's gonna try and find the narrowest grip that he can get on the bar while still maintaining a good tight position and being comfortable there, okay? So for Dan, it looks like he's starting out, hands are just outside shoulder width, and from here he's gonna pull himself down underneath the bar. And if he holds right here, what you see is he's got his shoulder blades pulled back together, his elbows are somewhat down and back, and he's able to keep his head up from here. Okay? Now, there's going to be a lot of variation person to person based on comfort a little bit for how high this bar is going to go. What you'll find is that some people, maybe in powerlifting, will set up with the bar much lower down on their back. And you'll find some other people, maybe like you might see in Olympic weightlifting, that set the bar up a little bit higher. The biggest thing that I want you to take note of is that wherever the bar is, it's not going so high that it's up on his neck at all. Okay? The second thing I want to look at is, and I'll have Dan come out for this, is what's going to happen with elbow and shoulder position for this. So when you're going to find your grip, you may find that if you go too narrow for your mobility, that you end up getting out of position. So if Dan turns to the side here, and he just pretends he's setting up like he's in a squat, if Dan comes and brings his hands too narrow and tries to get on the bar, what you might find is that his shoulder dips forward and his elbow dips back. Okay? This is a position we want to avoid because it's going to put a ton of extra stress on the anterior shoulder. Additionally, having the elbows up like this as you go into your squat position is going to force you to feel like the weight's pushing you forward. Okay? So like I said before, grip is going to vary a little bit. Find the narrowest grip that works for you so that you can still maintain this good position. Okay? Second thing we're going to talk about now, once he's got his grip, is how you walk the bar out. All right? So he's going to get back to that same grip he showed us before, and you'll find that before he even stands up, he's got his feet squared up, and they're a little bit narrower than he's gonna be for his actual squat, okay? So from here, he's gonna stand straight up. His first step is gonna be straight back, and once he's cleared the rack, then he's gonna take 2 small steps outward to get to his squat stance, okay? So for Dan right now, his stance is set up so that his feet are just outside shoulder width, toes are turned out just a little bit. This is a great starting point for you in the squat, okay? What you find here is that as he sits down, he's able to go into a pretty equal knee and hip bend, and then he can come right back up out of there, okay? So the way you squat is gonna change a ton based on your body mechanics, right? So if you're more comfortable squatting a little bit wider, so if Dan goes a little wider, you may find that he has to now sit back a little bit more in his squat, and it's a little bit more hip dominant, okay? Now, you may be able to squat a little bit narrower, you're more comfortable there because you have great ankle dorsiflexion and you like being able to stay upright in your squat. And what you find now is that his chest stays up even more, but still everything stays the same. It's a pretty equal knee and hip bend, okay? So if you're trying to figure out what squat stance might work best for you, if we take a look at Dan from the side, I'll have him turn a little bit. The biggest thing that we want to look for here is that this end of the bar stays in a straight line and it's moving right over the middle of the foot up and down, okay? So if you find a squat stance that maybe is too narrow for you, right? So you set up a little bit narrower and you don't quite have the ankle dorsiflexion or the mobility at the hips to stay upright here, you'll find that as you squat down, your chest starts to drop forward and this bar gets out in front of your foot. What's gonna happen is that this is gonna cause a little bit of extra pressure on the back. It's gonna give you a really hard time trying to stand back up out of the squat, okay? Similarly, if you go too wide in your squat, okay, you may find the same thing. That as you sit back, your chest ends up kind of diving forward and you end up more in a position like you might be for a deadlift. And again, you put a little bit too much stress on your back, okay? So what we're looking for here, when in doubt, is if you film yourself and you have a friend looking at your squat, that we're seeing a nice vertical bar path up and down, okay? Show us one more good one. Perfect, okay? Other things to take note of here, you hear a lot of people cue different things like weight in the heels or keep your chest up when you're in your squat. I think all of these cues are great and they're great for the right person, okay? So our big rocks, the things that we're looking for no matter who you are, no matter what kind of squat you're doing, are that primarily we want to keep your rib cage and your pelvis somewhat parallel to each other, right? So if we're going to exaggerate this, if Dan were to really keep his chest up, which is a common cue, you'll find that this rib cage kind of flares open and his hips kind of flare back down. right? So we're losing that position. He really loses anterior core tension here, and he puts a lot of extra stress on his back, and it's probably going to cause him to kind of reverse that posture as he goes down to a squat. So what we're looking for is somewhat equal here, right? And this is going to allow him now to sit between his knees, as we talked about as a cue, push his knees out and sit straight down into a squat, right? If he doesn't do that, and he kind of finds himself flaring into this chest open position, that he gets a lot of extra stress, and he might even end up butt winking at the bottom, okay? So when you're setting up for back squat, give these things a try. They should really set you up for better success.